Welcome along to 98 Not Out. As always, tell your friends, spread the word. Today, my guest is Ed Warner, who's had a long career, a bit like myself, in the city of London. But apart from that, he's been working with various sporting bodies, including 10 years at UK Athletics. And currently, he's the chair of Great Britain Wheelchair Rugby, amongst many, many other things. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to this. Let's get into it. Ed, welcome along to 98 Not Out. Really great to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Darren. Delighted to be invited.
I'm gonna I don't really have an agenda for this conversation, so we'll just talk generally about. But I'm interested in your experiences with sports governance, governing bodies, all of that kind of stuff. But I want to start just generally. Winding back to where I'm guessing we're similar sorts of ages, but when we were kids, after school holidays, every local bit of greenery or any kind of area where there were some garages, there were kids around where I grew up, every single bit of green was taken up by people playing football through the winter months, and then when after the FA Cup final, the footballs were put away and the cricket bats came out, and we all played cricket through the summer until the end of the summer holidays. That doesn't happen anymore. Have you got any thoughts on why that might be?
Well, you're sounding like a really old proverbial there, Darren. Yeah. Well, look, it's a combination of factors, isn't it? One is disappearance of green spaces. Those that exist seem to have posters up saying no ball games. Social media, prevalence of smartphones, distractions for kids, but also makes parents anxious. Kids with air tags in their pockets so their parents can see where they are at any one moment in time. Is society any more dangerous than it was all those decades ago? I don't think so. It's just the consciousness of danger has gone up. As you throw all of those things together, and you're right, you go past the local playing field, it's completely empty unless there's structured sport happening at the weekend. You don't see kids doing it for themselves. I remember spending hours banging a football up against the side wall of our house in Orpington in Kent, or down the rec with my mates with a couple of stumps and a bat and a manky old ball, knocking it around. I'm sounding wistful now myself. I think it's a shame, and obesity levels in this country are soaring, aren't they? And that's not just the kids, it's their parents too. And when you work, I've chaired the charity Crystal Palace Football Club for 7 or 8 years. And one of the things we did was a healthy eating campaign, working with the local community. And you had to work with the whole family, not just with the kids. You saw an overweight kid, probably their parents were too. And you had to teach the whole family how to cook and eat healthily. And it's a great shame. It's a sedentary nation and all the health consequences that come with that. Sport can help fix that. It can help fix the NHS. It can save the NHS a load of money, but government is very disconnected and can't quite see the benefit of spending money on sport and healthy living to reduce the cost of our health service. Those who work within Department of Culture, Media and Sport get it. Those who in Sport England get it, but there's no cut through because they're so much smaller than the might of the health service. And it's a shame, and it makes me very sad when I see it in action.
Yeah, because I'll use cricket as an example because we are a sort of cricket program, but there are lots of schemes and worthy organisations set up in these last few years to expand the reach of cricket. They feel that cricket has probably, and I'd go along with this, more than any other sport, seems to have disappeared almost into the ether. And as you say, with green spaces being sold off, particularly at schools as well. And there's this whole drive to get younger kids or more younger kids involved in cricket. And there are things like, the Dynamos things, the All-Star programs that the ECB have set up. But cricket, and I suppose probably all sport now, is seen as being prohibitive because of the cost of it. That didn't seem to be a question. Like you say, we would play football with any beaten up old bit of leather. Cricket's, I can remember playing with ancient old bats, and stumps were made from branches out of the nearby trees and stuff like that. I'm being wistful, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
But Is it cost now that's as much to blame with anything as anything else?
I think cost is a bit of it. I think it's availability of facilities, but I also think it's this overbearing health and safety culture that the minute something becomes organised sport, there's 1,000 forms to fill out, there's accreditations to get, there's risk assessments to undertake, and that relies on adult volunteers giving huge amounts of their time to do some pretty dull stuff to get to the interesting bit. And there's real pressure on the availability of a volunteer cohort in this country. And sport, organised sport, and I know this, does its level best to celebrate our volunteers, but there simply aren't enough of them to cope with the need. And you look to schools, and organised sport in school is being shrunk. The facilities available in most schools are derisory, and there's pressure on teachers, head teachers, to deliver academic success or simply to control a classroom that could be unruly. And there's a real challenge to insert some organised team sport into that. And cricket probably, alongside rugby, has got the greatest challenges. Cricket's a complex sport. Those in the field are active, but those sitting on the sideline waiting to bat, 9 of the 11 are running around with nothing to do or are bored. How do you occupy them? How many teachers do you need to keep that all under control? Rugby, you've got the whole issue of head injuries, tackle height challenges, parents who are very anxious about their young son or daughter playing rugby. Football's got it easy by comparison. Chuck a ball onto a piece of grass, the old classic jumpers for goalposts. You can play 5-a-side, 7-a-side, any number aside. For a school, for a teacher, it's much easier to organise and control that sport. So cricket, I feel, is challenged. Going back to my athletics days, athletics has a similar challenge too. I mean, it's not one sport, it's a plethora of different events. It's hard for a school to organise that, everything from shot put to hurdling to long jump to track events. And so they don't bother. And they don't bother, not that they don't care about sport. It's just the challenge is too great. And add on to that, children with fleeting attention spans who don't want to commit to something wholeheartedly. A team sport requires commitment. Are you on the team? You're therefore committed every Saturday for the whole season. Individual pursuits, when you become an adult, go out for a run, go to the gym, go for a cycle. You can do that stuff by yourself. You don't have to make a social commitment to it. So organised team sport is under the cosh. And I fear it becomes the if you like, the purview of the privileged. Big private schools with the facilities have the ability to deliver. Your local state school doesn't, and so a social divide opens up.
Going up a level to people that as kids become adults and they want to take their sport a bit more seriously, is there a change in the attitudes where in the good old days, people would play football or cricket or rugby or whatever for the love of it, and sport was much more on an amateur basis. These days, it seems to be that people are trying to make careers from the get-go. You're seeing Premier League football clubs signing up kids in their young teenage years and committing them to, sort of getting on this gravy train. And it seems to follow through, and money seems to be taking over. We're seeing it now in cricket, where all of a sudden pound signs or dollar signs are being waved in front of people, and we're seeing the world's best players being paid ridiculous amounts of money to play the game. And there seems to be a drip down effect going on, where I'm not sure it's for the best interest of a game like cricket, where it becomes so money obsessed. Have you got any thoughts on the damage that money's doing?
I think I'm not sure. It's a football. We could talk about that because it's if you like, it's a way out of, let's call it, an ordinary life, is to dream of becoming a very wealthy footballer. And so you see that so huge parental pressure on the sidelines from a very young age, with a family dreaming that this is a way out of a humdrum life for them through their kid. I don't think that's the same in cricket because of the social divide we just talked about. How many working class children get a chance in a state school to play cricket in an organised, consistent fashion. Diminishingly few, which is a real tragedy. I think for me, the money in cricket, the worry I have is that you see young talent breaking through the professional ranks and their career instantly is torn in all sorts of different directions. So I'll give you a real example because it was last week's newspaper. A great feature in The Guardian on Sonny Baker, that young quickie, 22 years old, gone from Somerset to Hampshire. And I'm reading it thinking, I hadn't heard of him. I'm not such a cricket nerd that I knew of him, but wow, sounds a really exciting talent, can bowl incredibly quickly, hardly played any first-class cricket, but on the radar of England already. And you read down the article and you find, yes, he's moved from Somerset to Hampshire, but he's playing for the Manchester Originals in the 100 this summer. And you think, well, hang on a minute. The Southern Brave play at the Utilita Bowl in Hampshire. The Southern Brave are part owned by the owners of Hampshire County Cricket Club. How can this young person, age of 22, be plying his trade now on the South Coast, but be playing for Manchester in this one-off tournament in August? Well, it's only about money. There's no loyalty or integrity in the structure of the sport anymore. And I don't blame Sonny Baker for that. I blame the ECB for it, but I also blame the ICC for allowing franchise cricket to come along and dominate entirely the cricketing calendar. And it might be for the benefit of young talent looking to make a living swiftly, but it will set expectations at the wrong level for many players trying to break through. It will create enough haves and have-nots within the ranks of professional cricketers, but also it diminishes the experience for people trying to lock into the game. And yeah, if I live in Sussex, so not in Hampshire, but Hampshire's just down the road. If I'm someone who's got young kids in Hampshire and trying to get them into cricket, how do I explain to them that this young tyro fast bowler they're seeing playing for my county suddenly is playing against us for 1 month of summer? And it makes no sense. And money in that way is corrupting the integrity and the coherence of the sport. And I think that is to its detriment.
I'm also worried about the power that these money men are holding. At the current moment in time, the whole game is being dictated to by the BCCI in India, the IPL franchises, and all of a sudden the stuffed blazers, to use Will Carling's old term, at the ECB and the ICC are having rings run around them by fairly ruthless and experienced businessmen. We've seen this before with the ECB with the Stanford Millions, where they were just so far out of their depth. I kind of get the feeling that this is happening all over again.
Oh yeah, I think I've got a lot of time. I've never met him. I've read a lot about him. Got a lot of time for Richard Thompson, the chair of the ECB. I think he's doing his best with the very difficult hand that he was dealt when he came in to take on the role, and the 100 was already rolling, if you like, by the time he arrived. He was an opponent of it. Now he's an advocate. I guess it's an understandable switch, but I'm reading at the moment that the two successful bidders for the London franchises in the 100 are already quibbling about the contractual terms that they're being asked to sign up to for their tens of millions of pounds. And that's evidence yet again of money men scope creep, if you like, nibbling away at power and creating influence for themselves at the margin. Now, it's not the same as the Stanford Millions, but the principle is the same. So I don't disagree with you. But it's very hard to stand in the face of that flow of money because the players themselves want to see it. Their careers are quite fleeting, maybe not as short as a top rugby player or a top footballer, but they are still short. What do they do once they're retired? There are only so many slots in the Sky commentary box for them to fill. They had to make hay while the sun shone, and you probably do the same in their position. But Indian money is all conquering. This summer, India over here playing England 5 tests. It'll be packed because Indian cricket fans in England will want to be there. English fans will want to be there, but that won't be a true picture of the state of Test cricket around the world. And we can delude ourselves when India tour, when Australia tour, that all is fine. It isn't fine. And if we believe that the skills that are required to play red ball cricket successfully are important foundations for anybody playing any form of cricket, then we watch the decline of red ball cricket with great concern. And if that isn't reversed, then what does this game become? It just becomes a game of bashing rounders, and ultimately will decline in quality. And when quality declines, so interest over time will decline too. And it's only so long that the IPL can hold levels of attention up at where they are right now. And arguably, last season's IPL might suggest we're past peak IPL. And if that is the case, everybody should be worried.
Yeah, I mean, I always find, I mean, this time of year, I always try, with all the best intentions, to follow the IPL, and I just get, because I wonder if it's a case of not being emotionally invested in it because I don't have a team. It's not my local, or, you know, it just becomes just like cricketing wallpaper to me. And I'll watch a game and then I might go off and go and do something, and then the fact that it goes on for so long, just, you know, I find it hard. But
I love a day of cricket. And the higher the standard of play, the better. So, yeah, you won't find me at a load of county championship matches in my deck chair with a few hundred other people. Time's too precious to do other stuff. But you know, if I can go and see England, if I can go and see the top one-day county match or England international, I'll try and do that if it's within striking distance. But each time I go, I've got a tribal loyalty.
yeah,
And I personally think that's hugely important. I worry when I look at football that there's an increasing number of young people who follow individual players above teams. And if a favourite player is transferred from A to B, their own allegiance shifts from A to B. And it's not just a Ronaldo or Messi thing. That's cascading down these days. And that's what you're seeing in franchise cricket, isn't it? You know, you're reaching the point at which people want to follow Harry Brook wherever he's playing. Whether it's in India or in England, if it's in England, whoever he's playing for. And again, I think that's a great shame because you need to foster fan loyalties that transcend the player, that endure beyond the player. You don't want the point at which, I used Harry Brook as an example, in years to come, a Harry Brook retires and people's interest wanes because their superstar that they're latched onto wanes. I see value in club loyalty. Now, I'm very, very old school, and I think you should support your local team, but I can understand why people don't. But you need durability there. You need parents to pass on to their children a love of a club or a love of a nation. And yeah, that builds a fan base which has got resilience, and that creates foundations that financially you can build on to create successful sport. And the IPL it's a bit like a snack, isn't it? You know, you eat it, you feel satisfied for a short period of time. A couple of hours later, you need another one. Well, actually, what you need is 3 square meals a day. And yeah, that's something that sport forgets at its peril.
one of the open goals that I think has been missed at the start of this 2025 season, which is just getting underway, we're talking about the peril and the threats faced by the domestic first-class counties. So the season starts. The open goal that's been missed is the fact that a lot of the England players, Harry Brook, you mentioned, Joe Root is another one, are being told they can't play for the first few rounds because of they've got to go to England meetups and they've got to have performance assessments, etc., etc., etc. Jimmy Anderson, there was his whole fanfare of once he'd retired from Test cricket. Oh, I've got years left in me. There was a newspaper article the other day. I've got 3 years left, and then promptly announces that he's going to miss a month because he's injured. These are the sort of things that, you know, if I was a Yorkshire fan, I'd love to be turning around, going up to the early games of the county championship and seeing Joe Root and Harry Brook in county colours. And, you know, even Jimmy Anderson, I mean, no, he's not playing for England anymore, but surely these big names need to have some kind of responsibility to the counties that brought them through and got them to where they are now. Playing 3 or 4 county championship games should be kind of part and parcel of what they do.
Yeah, it should be, but the fact is the ECB is dictating this, not the players' own interests. Now, some players will be more loyal to a county than another, but ultimately they're centrally contracted and the ECB will handle their workload. And you see that in all sports. Go back to my athletics days. Young athletes come through a club, Newham and Essex Beagles, for example, producing some amazing talent down the years. Christina Horrigu was Newham and Essex Beagles. She always remembered where she came from, but once they've broken through to international level, it's the international vest they're wearing or the kit that's provided by their kit sponsor that's paying them a lot of money to wear their colourway. The yellow and black of Newham and Essex Beagles rarely gets seen on a top athlete, even though actually if you look at the program or the website, it will cite their club next to their name. So it's not unique to cricket. It's in athletics, it's dictated by the need to try and make money on a global circuit in a sport which is essentially an amateur sport. In cricket, it's dictated by those global riches and central contracts, and the counties all being entirely dependent on the stipend they get from England international cricket every year, and now on top of that from the 100. I don't think you're going to turn that round. I think it's for the counties to just try and hold on to those strings where they can, that they get something from the players. It's interesting to see Johnny Bairstow captaining Yorkshire this year. So his England career may or may not be over, probably is, but he's not done yet, and he's digging in for his county. I think that's admirable. He's not moved elsewhere. He's not decided he's just going to go down the franchise route. Maybe that's a bloody-minded Yorkshireman for you, to use a cliche, and to their advantage, possibly. But I don't think we could. Again, in same use of football analogy, you don't get one club men anymore in the way that you used to.
Yeah.
Players are much more mobile. It is the power of money, isn't it? It's the power of television which creates the money. What can we do but, as fans, dream of the next star coming through? And your continuity comes from the club crest, doesn't it? It comes from the venue you go to watch your team in whatever sport it is. And it comes from those around you, your fellow fans that you see week in, week out, or season in, season out, whatever it is you're watching that's in front of you. So I think the key is that there's sufficient quality to keep you interested, the unique competitions which got real narrative to them, which is why English cricket stuffs it up so often by splitting competitions, splitting the summer into two parts with 100 stuffed in the middle, the county championship starting the season and ending it, but nothing of it in the middle. None of these things are good looks because you forget the story. It's like if I started binge watching any TV drama and it's an 8-parter and I watch the first 4 parts and go away for 2 months, I had to remind myself what I watched in the first 4 parts, before I get going again. Who was it I was watching? Where are they in the league? Who's topping the averages right now?
Yeah, where did those players go? Why aren't they back?
And back in the day, I was remembering an old university mate of mine was John Carr, who was open for Middlesex for a number of years, then went to work at the ECB for a number of years. And I remember the summer in which he topped the averages ahead of Brian Lara, because I think John was not out for about 6 weeks on the trot in the summer in the county championship. That was a real story, not just because I knew the bloke, but because the great Brian Lara was being beaten by an Englishman who wasn't an international, who was just batting out of his skin for his county. You'd never get any of that these days, partly because no one would have any interest because the county championship has waned so much, but also because the county championship is split in two. So a batsman might have a purple patch at the beginning of the season. Who knows what form he'll be in at the back end and whether he can pick it up again. It's a nonsense.
And also, that's just a hark back to the days when you had these international superstars come over to play county cricket, to pull on whites and not pyjamas and stick around for the whole season and everything that went with that. I'm going to wrap this up by basically bringing us back to where we started, but with a slant. So sport, and let's keep with cricket, is about money these days. Money men have a huge influence. They dictate who does what, who plays where, etc., etc. My final question is their intention now to attract eyeballs to the TV screen as opposed to people picking up a ball or going along to a stadium?
That is what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And you watched it with cricket, haven't you? For the last few years, you can tune into a test match, You can see England touring in a white ball competition overseas, playing in front of empty stadia. But Sky TV still show it. They'll still throw Athers, Nasser Hussain, whoever it might be at co-commentary, commentary. All the production values are there. And the producers are asking you to overlook the fact that no one's interested enough to go sit in the stands to watch that live. I was always told in athletics that any empty seats on the BBC when we were putting on an athletics meeting were very dangerous, because people at home would say, why am I bothering watching this when people haven't bothered to turn up and attend in person? Cricket's gone beyond that. It's now about TV money. The TV money is driven by betting money. Clearly, there's a massive gambling culture around the sport of cricket globally, just as there is around football and so many other sports. And there's a danger in that, because the public may open their eyes one day and say, why am I watching this? No one's gone in person. And when we get to that point, a sport will die. And yeah, I'm not saying cricket's going to die tomorrow, but it has to nurture crowds. It has to get bums on seats. And you know, and I know, watching something live is a completely different experience to watching it on television. And we need to make sure that the fans of tomorrow are connecting with live sport, because without it, sport withers.
A great way to end it, with some sobering thoughts. Ed, really great to meet you, and I've really enjoyed talking. I feel we could go on for another few days, let alone a few hours. Make sure you subscribe to Ed's excellent blog on Substack. It's called Sport Inc. That's right. Which is also the title of a book that he's written, which is also very well worth reading. Ed Warner, fantastic to talk, and we'll have to get you back for some more ramblings. We haven't even talked about Palace yet.
Thank you, Darren. Cheers.